Ernie, was machst du?
I want to.
When is the bat mitzvah?
Tonight.
Oh, beautiful.
Tonight.
Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mazel tov. Make sure you announce the when you go to oh you don't forget it. You already switched off, right? You switched off from the tour bus.
Yeah.
Mario said make sure you switch up. Okay. So
yeah, we switched up. Now we're gonna do.
Okay, but let Mario send he didn't send an announcement that the shear is at 9 p.m. I wouldn't have known that unless Harold.
I saw it. Ernie sent.
Yeah.
Right.
I maybe look properly. Okay.
So tomorrow, same thing. Tomorrow, let's stop. The daf will be at 9 o'clock. All week, it'll be 9 p.m. because it's 7 a.m. here. This morning I woke up earlier because of the tzorba. And that works for Thursday night too, because it's after the tzvika shir. I think we're on Tzadik Hey, 95.
Yeah, it's Tzadik Hey. Although today is Tzadik Zion, but Tzadik Hey is good.
So we'll be looking at Tzadik Vav. Let's see. Okay, well, it is what it is. Gneva v'aveda b'shoyel shehu chayav alein minola. So yesterday we learned in detail the various sources for the Arba Shoimrim, the three parshios that we read in Shmos. And we noted when it says v'chi yishal, when you borrow, it only talks about mesa and shvura and shvuya. That if the animal died or got broken or was taken captive, the shoel has to pay. But it doesn't mention gneva v'aveda. So v'chite menelef mishvura umesa. So the Gemara wants to say that it's a kavachomer. That if you have to pay for shvur mesa, you're certainly going to be chai for gneva v'aveda. Maybe we could say the opposite. Mala shvur mesa once it dies, there's nothing you can do to get it back. Listen, he can go around, look for it, and find it. So maybe the din would be different. Ella, the proof that a shoel is chai for gneva veda ki hadatanya. It says v'chi yishal ish me'im re'eyu. You're going to borrow from your friend v'nishbar o meis shalem yishalem. Eli ela shvura mesa, that's broken or dead. Gneva v'aveda minayim. Amrit kavachomer u'mashamer sachar. A paid watchman. We said potter mishvura mesa. He's potter ba'oinsin, like if it gets broken or died. Yet chayav b'gneva v'aveda shoel shechayav b'shvura u'mesa. A shoel is chayav in oinis einodin shechayav b'gneva v'aveda. Certainly he'd be chayav gneva v'aveda. V'zeu kavachomer she'ein elav tshuva. And this is a kavachomer that you can't ask a kasha on. So the Gemara immediately jumps on this unusual language. What do you mean, my ein elav tshuva? Because maybe you'll say there's a logical reason to break the kavachomer. Malashem sachar. Shekein mishalem tashlume kefel im toyen tanis lista mezuyin. If a paid watchman, the owner of the object comes to him and says, give me my object back. And he says, it was taken from me by armed robbers. And it turns out that it was false. He had it all along. He has to pay kefil. But a shoel in that same scenario only pays keren. Afilachi karna de shoel adifa. no matter what. No matter, that means the shul pays Karen in every situation. That's better than even the occasional case where the Shomer Socher has to pay kefil. So that might be a reason to say that the Kavach Chomer doesn't work. So the Gemara had to say the Kavach Chomer doesn't work. The Kavach Chomer does work. You can't break it. Iboy Sema, others say, Ksavar, that he doesn't have to pay kefil by listed mezuyim, because listed mezuyim gazlan, a shomer socher only pays kefil if he's toying tanas ganef. A ganef is someone who creeps into your house and steals without you being aware. So through psukim we learn that if a shomer socher is toying ganef, he claims a ganef stole it, and it turns out that he was the one who had it all along, then he pays kefil. But a listed mezuyim, an armed robber who holds you up with a gun in front of you, he's not a ganef, he's a gazlan. And Tainus gazlan does not require you to pay kefil. Okay. And therefore, you can't break the kavach from shomer socher. Madach a shomer socher is potter mishvura umesa, but pays for gneva veda. A shoyel who's chayiv for shvura umesa certainly is going to be chayiv gneva veda. That's the primary limud for a shoyel. Ashkechan l'chiyuv. So that gives you the obligation of a shoyel to pay when it was stolen or lost. Liftor minola. Now, we also learned that there are various pturim. For example, if the bailim have been hired to work with the animal that you borrowed, we says, im balavimo lo yishalem. Now, that's only written by the shomer chinim and shomer socher. It's not written befeirush by a shoyel. So the Gemara now is trying to find the source that if the owner was with the shoel, he also doesn't have to pay by gneva veda. V'chite manelef mishvura umesa malishvura umesa shekein oines. The animal dying is an accident, and yet you're potter when the bailim are there. Ela ki gamar mishomer socher. We learn it from a shomer socher who's potter from gneva veda when the bailim are there. For the Gemara shomer socher gufim minolan, and then of course we have this kavach chomer. If the shomer socher is potter, the shoel certainly would be potter. Shomer socher gufim minolan. How do you know the shomer socher is potter when the bailim are with him? Gamri chiyuv the shomer socher mechiyuv the shoel. The obligation to pay as a shomer socher is learned from the obligations as a shoel. Malahalan, the bailim potter, and just over there we learn now that if the bailim is there is no requirement to pay. Afkan, where there's a chiyuv for a shomer socher, the bailim potter. B'may gama, how have you learned it? Through a mamatzinu, just like the halacha is there, it's there. Well, ikele mifrach k'tfarchinon. Shekein oines. We could go say thing, but that's an accident. So Amar Kravachi Yishal Vav Moisif Alenin Rish. It connects the third parsha, which is the parsha of Shoyel, to the previous ones. It's not independent. It adds to the original ones. The Yelamed Elyon Mitachto. Then the Shomer Socher, which immediately is the parsha that appears before Shoel, that the din of Shomer Socher, that's the Elyon, is connected to the din of the Tachton, which is the Shoel. The Akad Ishol is Shomer Socher lo gomar, but again, we cannot learn Shol from Shomer Socher, the Ikla Mifrach, Mala Shomer Socher Shekein Potter Mishvur Mesa, because the Shomer Socher is Potter from an animal who died. Ella, Gneva Vaveda B'Shor L'Chiyuv Minallah. We're back to our question, how do we know Gneva Veda by Shor L'Chai? The government Shomer Socher. We learned it like the Kavah Chomer. Dayu Lovin Adin Lios Kinidin. Even though L'Chora Shor is more Chomer, you can't be machmir beyond what the Kavah Chomer teaches. Magneva Vaveda the Shomer Socher b'Bailim Potter. And therefore, if the Bailim are with the Shomer Socher and it's stolen or lost, he's Potter. Af Gneva Veda b'Shoyel b'Bailim Potter. So it's learned from the principle of Dayo. Hanich Lamantim Lesle Dayo. So fine, this is good according to the opinions that learn Dayo by Kavah Chomer. But Laman Delesle Dayo Michael Memer. What'll those that don't learn Dayo, what are they going to do? Amar crop v'chi yishal vav moisif alin rishon. That means they're connected. Is there like an equation between Shomer Socher and Shoyel? You learn Shoyel going backwards to Shomer Socher and Shomer Socher going forwards to Shoyel. Itma. Pshia b'bayim. We've learned that if the owner is there, you're potter. But what if the shomer is negligent? Is it still a potter if the bailim are there? Pligi ba ravachav ravina. Chadam archayiv, v'chadam ar potter. One says, even though the Torah says that if the bailim are there, you're potter, that's only if you weren't negligent. If you're negligent, you're chayiv. Madam archayiv ksovar mikra nidrish lefonav. When you learn between parshios, you can only learn to the parsha that's next to it. Avalo lifnei fanav. But you can't skip to the parsha above it. If you have parsha 1, 2, 3, 3 can learn from 2, but 3 cannot learn from 1. Hilkach. In Balav Imalo Yishalem, that was written by the first parsha, Asher Mechina, which is the lifnei fanav. In Bava Asher Mechinam Loksiv. It's not written there about the Bible. Upshia Nami, where it says Akol Dvar Pesha, B'Shomer Socher V'Shor Loksiv. It's only written by Shomer Chinam. Hilkach. B'Shomer Socher V'Shor L'Chiyuv. How do we know that? Aseh B'Kal V'Chomer B'Shomer Chinam. If a Shomer Chinam is chayiv by pshia, certainly the others would also be chayiv by pshia. But aval b'baylim liftor after Shomer Socher v'shoyel lo, but not that you get a tour if the baylim are there. My time, iksiv im balavi mo lo yishalem. That's only written b'shoyel and b'Shomer Socher. So they're taught to the ones where it's written, Shomer Socher and Shoyel, and not in any not the din of Pshia is not taught there. Mandam Potter Ksover, Mikra Nidish Lefanav Vilifnei Lefanav. The drasha can extend all the way from case 3 to case 1. So Ki Ksiv in Balavi Mo Lo Yishalem, when it says the Bailam are not with them, Asher Mechinam Nami Ksiv, and that's where the parsha of Pshia is as well. So that's the machlokas. That explains the machlokas between Ravina and Ravacha. Tan Rabban. It's not. Hashol par v'shol bali imo. You borrowed a car, you borrowed a cow, and you borrowed the owner to work with you as well. Or hashol para, the socher bali imo. You borrowed the cow and you rented the owner. Or Shalbaleh or Sachran, you borrowed him or you rented him, V'akach Shalapar Mesa, in all these cases, Potter. Vila Shomer Loktani. Here it does mention, it mentions Shoyel, it mentions Sachar being paid, right? But it doesn't mention Shomer Chinam. So maybe there's no ptur by Bailim. So Ula Tameich Shomer Socher Miktan doesn't say Shomer Socher Iner, it talks about Soicher. So Miktan and Milsa the Ksiv about Deiktoni. So that Bryce only talked about those things that were mentioned in the Farish in the Torah. The Asya Midrasha Loktani doesn't mean that it's not the halacha, but those things that were learned through a drasha of Lifnei Fanav were not mentioned in that Mishnah. Toshma. Shala v'shal bala imo. They borrowed the cow and the owner. Sachra v'sachra bala imo. You rented the cow or rented the owner. Or you mixed and matched. Shala v'sachra bala imo. You rented the cow and you borrowed the owner. Or vice versa. Sachra v'shal bala imo. Afal pisha bailim oisim locha b'makom acher. The bailim doesn't necessarily have to be working exactly where the cow is. If the cow dies, mesa potter, savrua, we understood that to mean that Hamani, Rabbi Yehuda, who said, that the din of a renter is like a shomer socher. So the Tana that listed it anyways, even though it's from a drasha, not from a pasuk, and shomer chinam loktani, it didn't mention shomer chinam, so the din is not like a shomer chinam. Hamani Rav Meir, shomer socher shomer chinam dami. That a socher is treated through his dinim not like a paid watchman, but like an unpaid watchman, and therefore lachein Tana b'shomer chinam huadin l'shomer socher. It's taught to do both shomer. Iboy seima kidemaflif Rabbi Baravua v'tani. Soicher ketz mishalem. How is the soicher paid? Rav Meir Omer kishomer socher, Rav Yehuda Omer kishomer chinam. Amar Rav Amnuna la'olam hu chayiv ad shetei por v'chorish bo. That means the bailim imo, you're going to be chayiv unless he's actually plowing with the cow itself. Chamor machanach, or schlepping, adding things to the chamor. Vachu bailim. And he has to be employed by you from the time that you rented the cow until he died. The balavima implies he has to be with you for everything, not just for a brief moment. Masif Rava. You rented the cow and you rented the owner. Sachar v'sachar bala. You instead of borrowing, you rented them. Sachar v'shal bala imo. Shala v'sachar bala imo. Aval b'shal bala moisim loch makamacher. Here we quoted the Mishnah. It said even though the bailim are not physically there with the animal, potter. My love, what does it mean b'mokamacher? B'mlocha cheres. He's not working with the cow at the same malacha. No, but also malacha. So then, what does it mean? Elamai mokamacher. Because the marfi v'ozol kamar, that means the animal is dragging a plow behind him, and the owner is in front of the animal, also loosening up the earth with a shovel to help. So he's not doing exactly, he's not like putting the plow in, but he's doing the same look of softening the earth, even though he's not physically in the same location. Freak the Gemara. For Hamid to say for Al Gabah, it talked about putting packing on top of the animal. So aviration and lechacheres must be the ratio talking about a different word. The Tani Seifa, She'ela, he borrowed the cow, V'akach Shol Bala, and then he borrowed the owner. Or Sachra, he rented the cow, V'akach Sachra, then he rented the owner. Abu Bishabalim Choshim Al Gabah Umesa, even though the bailim are plowing there on top of it, chayiv. And yet he's working on the same malacha. Before you said you'd be potter. Amri Reisha v'Seifa is ba'os malacha, but Reisha Revusa Kamashmalon, the Seifa Revusa. Each one is telling me a chiddush. Reisha Revusa Kamashmalon. The chiddush of the Reisha is the afagav shalav al gabah He's not right on top of the animal, but it's in front of it. But he's doing the same thing. The Ba'alas Malacha, even the Ba'ilim B'Shas She'ila Potter. Since the Ba'ilim were there when he rented both, there's a Patur. The Sefer Revusa Kamashma, the Sefer has its own Chiddush. That even though Daf Al Gaba, even though now the Ba'ilim are on top of the animal, even Shalayu Ba'ilim B'Shas She'ela, if the Ba'ilim were not rented there at the time when they did it, there's no Patur, Chayiv. Now, hi, my. I don't understand. Iyam Bishma Reisha, we said, is B'mlacha Cheres. And the Sefer B'Osa Malacha, Haina Revusa, so we have a Chiddush. And Iyam Reisha the Sefer B'Osa Malacha, if he's working with the animal with the same Malacha, my Revusa, what Chiddush is. I divided B'Osa Malacha. Both cases are talking about they're doing. So what is the Sefer adding? V'otanya, it says in Balavi Moloi Shalem. If the owner is there, he doesn't have to pay. Any Odeya, she in Balav Any Mo Shalem Shalem. I mean, I know the negative. That if the Balav are not there, of course he has to pay. Why did the Torah have to say Balav Any Mo Shalem Shalem? It's superfluous. In Imhaya Imo B'Shas She'ela, Ein Tzarech Lios Imo B'Shas Shvur Mesa. If the owner was hired at the same time that you got the cow, then he doesn't have to be present when the animal died. But Hayya Imo B'Shas Shvur Mesa, he's still Tzarech Lios Imo B'Shas She'ela. You get the Patur. Tanya Idich. Mimash V'Shnemer Balav Eini Mo Shalem Shalem. From the fact that it says when the Bailim are not there, you have to pay. Yoidea She'im Balav Imo Lo Yishalem. I know the opposite, that if the Bailim are there, he doesn't have to pay. So why did the Torah have to write in Balav Imo? Lo Melcha. Kiven Shiyotzer Meshus Mashil. Sho'achas. The Bailim Umesa Potter. Even if he's not in the reshus of the borrower, even for 1 minute, there's still a Patur. So Tiyufta, Rav Amnuna, Tiyufta. Because it turns out that if the Bailim were there, if the Bailim were rented at the time that you rented the animal, even if the Bailim are not there when it died, you're still a Potter. But if the Bailim are not there when you rented it, even if it was there when the animal died, you'd be chayiv. That's the maskon of the Gemara. Abaya Savlak Rabbi Yoshia, Matatz the Kroik Rabbi Yoshia. Rav Savlak Rabbi Yonis, Matatz the Kroik Rabbi Yonis. Abaya Savlak Rabbi Yoshia, Matatz the Kroik Rabbi Yoshia. Balav Eini Mo Shalem Shalem. If the owners are not there, he has to pay. Time at the lesser better value. That's he wasn't by both. He wasn't there when he rented it, and he wasn't there when it broke. Ha'isa b'chada, the lesser b'chada, but if he was there for just one potter, I've even balavim aloi shalem. Why did the Torah then have to write, if the Bailim are there, you don't have to pay? Time at this because the Torah is referring to a situation where he was at both locations. But if he was not in both locations, he'd be chayiv. As long as the owner is there when he was hired and when the cow was borrowed, he doesn't have to be there when the cow died. But if he was there when it died, you had to be there by both. That's how a buyer lives. We're going to see. We end up passing like Rava. Okay. Very good, everybody. Have a Yomi Yerushalayim Sameach, and have a good day. We'll talk
Yomi
tomorrow.
Yerushalayim Sameach. Enjoy your day.
Again.
Thank you
cool.
very much.
Stay cool, Ernie.
Thank you.
Mazel tov again.
Thank you very much.